Everyone loves to say that motherhood is the hardest, most important, most noble job in the whole world, until it comes time to actually back that up with support or policy or community care or anything that would make raising children even the slightest bit easier. That's when society just shrugs and says, figure it out. The unspoken assumption is that women should just be able to do it all alone. Like motherhood is a DIY project where if you ask for help, you've already failed. Mind you, for 99.9% of human history, raising kids wasn't a solo mission. It was a whole ass group effort. Entire villages, extended families, whole communities had a hand in it. The idea of one person doing it all alone or effectively all alone is actually brand new. Like the worst social experiment we never signed up for. Yet today, if you're not single-handedly taking on the work of an entire tribe flawlessly, cheerfully, while also being told you're not good enough, you are seen as failing. It's like being forced to speedrun parenthood on expert mode while the rest of society just spectates and tells you that you suck at everything. In fact, the concept of a nuclear family and the idea of mums doing everything alone is literally younger than sliced bread. This concept is so new that if human history was like a 24-hour clock, the nuclear family and stay-at-home mums only showed up a few seconds before midnight. It's not natural. This is a really weird thing that we're doing. I'm making mini commentary videos on my Patreon, and I actually made one about how unnatural the nuclear family really is, how it was pretty much manufactured for the Industrial Revolution and it completely goes against human nature. So if that interests you, that'll all be linked below. It's like $5 a month if you want to watch some. Meanwhile, the loudest voices judging mothers are usually men with podcasts weighing in like they've ever cared for anything beyond a houseplant. But beyond that, everyone always has something to say about how mothers specifically are doing their job, and spoiler alert, it's never positive. The way that people online critique mothers is about as useful as toddlers reviewing a Michelin star restaurant. Society manages to glorify motherhood and also completely abandon mothers at the same time. Because the truth is, motherhood isn't just underappreciated, it is completely devalued. It is a terrible deal for women, and a deal that we've been forced into thinking is inevitable and natural and even noble. To be clear, the deal I'm talking about is not having kids. Not literally being a mother, it's motherhood as we've designed it in our current society. Motherhood would naturally be a great deal, I assume. We wouldn't know. We've never seen a natural version of it in this day and age. So let's talk about how motherhood in the setup that we have it at the moment is waking more and more women up to just how bad of a deal this is. How mothers became the internet's favorite punching bag, and why everyone thinks they could do better even though no one is putting their hand up for the job. From podcast bros all the way to your suburbs Facebook group. Motherhood, even with all the good that does come with it, and this video is not to say that there's no good that comes with it. The point of this video really is to show how much better it would be in its natural state without all of this extra crap and baggage that society puts on women to almost punish them for being mothers. Western society in particular. So motherhood, even with all its good, does shackle women socially, financially, and politically, and that's not by mistake. That's definitely not an accident. The second women become mothers, the system piles on expectations that are so heavy they can barely breathe. Mothers are expected to do the work of an entire village, a teacher, a nurse, therapist, chauffeur, a chef, CEO of snacks, an administration assistant, a manager, and if they don't do it all flawlessly, they're seen as failures. Fathers, on the other hand, if they so much as pack a school lunch, they're basically Nobel Prize winners. Mums are criticized from every angle. Dads are congratulated for babysitting their own kids, which is an insane thing to say. As if babysitting your kids isn't just doing like below the bare minimum for basic parenting. And no matter what role you choose as a woman, you will lose. If you're a stay-at-home mum, you're lazy, you're mooching off your husband. If you're a working mum, you're selfish and you're neglectful. If you're a single mum, God f***ing forbid. Because even though the dad is the one that left, somehow all the blame falls to the single mother who stayed and is doing their best to raise the kid. And if you're child-free, you're bitter, you're broken, you're unnatural. It's insanity. If these cicadas are gonna scream the entire video, I don't know how we're supposed to film with cicadas screaming the entire video. And they scream all day. They scream all day. It's not like it's all day. I just googled why cicadas scream. It's because they're trying to fuck. Their maternity leave is probably great. There's no winning, and that's the point. The system thrives on keeping women stuck in guilt and shame, because if you're constantly defending your life choices, you're not busy dismantling the system that benefits from them. And that's kind of the bigger picture here. Motherhood in its current form isn't just hard, it's sort of systemic exploitation. Our entire existence, our entire modern economy literally runs on unpaid or underpaid work from mothers. Childcare, housework, elder care, just to name the basics. If mothers collectively stopped, society would collapse in like under 48 hours, and that's being extremely generous. And yet all of that work that props all of our society up is dismissed as not real work, which is absurd because it's the only reason any of us are here. We spend so much time talking about what women owe everyone else, kids, partners, society, but like barely any time talking about what we owe ourselves, especially when it comes to like understanding our own bodies. We've been taught pretty much from birth to take care of everyone else first and feel guilty about wanting anything for ourselves. And that disconnect isn't natural at all, it's conditioning. And honestly, one of the most powerful ways to start unlearning that is by getting to know yourself again, which is exactly what the sponsor of this video, Beducated, helps with. Beducated is an online platform with a ton of expert-led courses on sex, intimacy, and self-discovery. There's everything from the sex audit to the sexual confidence course, even communication mastery courses and things like navigating endometriosis, all created by real experts who teach you how to communicate, explore, and reconnect with yourself and your body. It's about feeling like more connected to yourself without the shame, whether you are single or in a relationship or just curious. It's such an empowering way to rebuild that confidence again and enjoy being in your own skin. This is also not restricted to mothers or women. If you're a man watching this, you could learn a lot from Beducated. And if you're sitting there thinking, I know absolutely everything about sex and my relationship, you're wrong. Sign up for Beducated. You can use the link in my description or the pinned comment and my code Brianne to get 50% off your yearly pass. It's totally risk-free with a 14-day money-back guarantee, and it's 50% off. It's half price. So you can try it out and see what resonates with you. Because if society is going to keep demanding so much of women, the least we can do is remind ourselves that our own pleasure isn't selfish. So again, use my code Brianne or the link in my description for 50% off an annual pass. And thanks again to Beducated for sponsoring this video. The main reason why humanity has been able to build or invent anything or progress in any way is because of mothers, because of the unpaid and unacknowledged work that women have been doing for all of human history in birthing every single person that has ever existed, and then raising almost every single human who has ever achieved anything on this planet, including the ones that hate women and including the ones that don't value or appreciate women or baseline acknowledge the fact that their entire existence is because of a woman. But the discrimination often doesn't even wait for the kids to show up. Women are discriminated against in the workforce long before they even have kids. Employers often incorrectly assume that they'll eventually have kids and take maternity leave, so they're seen as a risk. Even child-free women get hit with it, like, oh, you don't want kids? You'll change your mind. You don't know what you want, you'll change your mind. As if they have any authority to know what a woman wants more than she does. Meanwhile, nobody questions whether or not men will have to step back for fatherhood. In fact, the opposite is true. Fatherhood is seen as proof that a man has settled down, that he's more reliable, more committed, more employable, and more stable. He's suddenly a safe bet because he's a family man. But when it comes to women, motherhood is seen as the complete opposite. Employers immediately assume, based on absolutely nothing, that she'll be distracted and unreliable and unambitious, that she's more of a risk and more expensive because of things like maternity leave and flexible hours required to raise kids. The exact same life event elevates a man's status and lowers a woman's. Make that make goddamn sense. The double standard really can't be clearer. Motherhood is seen as a liability and fatherhood is seen as an asset. But fatherhood is only seen as an asset because of women. Like, that's what is so annoying. The only reason fatherhood is a good thing is because it's assumed that the woman is going to be doing all of the rest of the work for him for free. Research even shows that a woman's pay drops when she becomes a mother, and that drops even more with every additional kid. But men's earnings tend to increase when they become fathers, which paints the double standard in stark relief. You really can't deny this. So here's the truth that no one really likes to admit. As much as parenthood is a personal choice, it is also a political total trap. Childcare, as we know, is notoriously unaffordable. Parental leave is minimal. Wages are stagnant, so you kind of get stuck in this trap of like working just to afford childcare just so you can work more. And again, this isn't an accident, this is by design. When you've got kids to support, you are way less likely to quit an unfulfilling job or quit a job with a shitty boss or push back against unfair working conditions. You are far less likely to strike or exercise your political rights and protest. You're basically a lot less likely to step out of line in case it threatens your income, because that threatens your kids. Stability becomes survival, not just for you, but for your whole family. Parenthood essentially sedates people politically and socially. It generally neutralizes any kind of resistance before it even starts. Parents tend to become a lot more like conservative and compliant politically, often out of necessity because protecting your kids becomes a priority, not affecting change in society. Meanwhile, child-free people are terrifying to the system because they sort of exist out of the system to an extent. There's a reason there's always been such a manufactured disdain for child-free women and women who are choosing not to have kids. It is a direct threat to the system they've set up. They are the establishment's worst nightmare. They can protest, travel, and take risks without worrying about who's going to pick their kid up from soccer practice or what's going to happen to their kid if they do this or they do that. From a socio-political standpoint, child-free people effectively have nothing to lose, or at least far less to lose than people with kids. They've got a lot more disposable income, a lot more freedom, and they've got the time and energy to sort of look around and be like, hey, this is a bit we should do something about this. All of that without having to worry about like a potential job loss, meaning they can't house or clothe or feed their kids. And it's that kind of flexibility and freedom that makes them so much harder to control. And it also results in fewer worker bees for billionaires to churn through their capitalist machines and force them to work so they can consume, and then consume so they can tolerate working constantly for pennies on the dollar. So needless to say, the ruling class is not a fan of child-free people. And all of this goes hand in hand with the marriage premium and subsequently the motherhood penalty. It's not just motherhood where the double standards show up, it's marriage itself. Married men earn more than literally everyone else. Everyone else. Every other demographic. Single men, single women, married women, especially mothers. It's called the marriage premium. Again, employers see a husband and think, oh, he's stable, he's reliable, he's driven, and they're far more likely to get hired and get a raise and promoted as a result, because apparently saying I do is more important than being judged on your merit or your work ethic. But for women, marriage works against them. Again, it's the exact same life event. Exact same life event. Elevates men, denigrates women. Married women are more likely to be seen by employers as distracted, more likely to quit, less committed. A man brings in a wife and suddenly he's management material, usually again because the one that is managing his life is his wife at home. But the woman who is managing everything can't be hired as a manager because she's not seen as good enough or committed enough to be a manager. Like, none of this shit makes any sense. We live in a garbage world. We live in a garbage world run by clowns. And on that note, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of my upper tier patrons who allow me to make videos like this. As I said earlier, I'm making like little mini commentary videos that are just like fast-paced little dives into things that I find interesting. Like, for example, the invention of the nuclear family, which I think like we invented that to serve factories. That is insane to me. Anyway, there's just a lot of little things that I find interesting that I'm going to upload over on Patreon, and there's more bonus content already over there. Also, you can get your name listed in every video, and you can get up to 20% off my clothing brand Riff Supply Co. We've just dropped a new tee over there, and there's a bunch of other cool stuff. So if you're currently naked, you want a tee, head to riffsupplyco.com, and if you want up to 20% off any of that, head to patreon.com/brianneworth. There's tiers for as little as $3 a month. $3 and every dollar helps. I could not do this without my patrons. I can't overstate how impossible it would be for me to do this as a job if it were not for Patreon. AdSense is not it. So yeah, a husband gets a wife, he's very employable. A wife gets a husband, God forbid. Suddenly she is a liability. So that gap exists already, and when women become mothers, that gap explodes. It's called the motherhood penalty, which should really illustrate where we're at as a society, that this exists. A woman's pay drops after every child, and studies show that the gap can last up to 10 years. 10 years, that's not a penalty, that is a career sentence. That's more time than a lot of criminals serve in jail. Meanwhile, men get what is literally called the fatherhood bonus. They're like, This is a joke. The more kids they have, the more they're respected, promoted, and rewarded. A father brings a baby photo to the office and everyone's like, oh, what a dedicated family man. But if a woman brings the same photo, suddenly she's a flight risk. Same kids, same situation, completely different outcome. The fact that a fatherhood bonus and a motherhood penalty exist to describe the exact same phenomenon should really highlight to you how much our society despises mothers. That same society who is also getting angry that the birth rates are plummeting, and also throwing tantrums about women not wanting kids anymore, and also throwing a fit about women delaying or avoiding marriage with men altogether, and also saying women should have less rights to force them to become mothers, and now also, as of like last week, targeting the only painkiller available to pregnant women. Bit of a side note, part of the same problem though. I don't know why the world at large is so confused with why women don't want to be mothers anymore when you are punishing them at every angle for being mothers. To be clear, there is zero evidence that Tylenol causes autism. Even the state-sanctioned press releases given to medical professionals about this issue says that. It actively stated something like there has been light correlation, but no causation proven. That's like saying ice creams cause shark attacks because they both happen to go up in summer. To be clear, the Trump admin is not going after Tylenol because it causes autism. It's more than likely part of the Project 2025 playbook to just punish women for existing. But because Tylenol is essentially one of the only forms of safe pain relief that a lot of pregnant women have. The point is to A, make women suffer, first and foremost. What else does that administration do? And number two, possibly some kind of a market play. There's probably backdoor brown paper bag deals happening here somewhere. Back to another problem, equal paychecks apparently do not mean equal housework. Somehow the rules flip as soon as you get home. Even when both parents work full time, or even when women are literally putting in longer hours than their husbands, the bulk of the childcare and housework still falls on women. Are we surprised? The 9 to 5 ends and then women clock into their second unpaid job. Cooking, cleaning, bedtime routines, school forms, emotional support, all of the invisible labor that keeps a household running. And the excuse is always the same. Well, he's the one working. Except as if women, A, haven't been working this whole time, and B, don't literally work now, currently, at the same jobs and hours that men are doing. And mind you, women have always worked. It's just they haven't always been paid for it. It hasn't always been recognized. And I'm not even talking about housework. I'm talking about like traditional work. And if a mother decides to step out of the workforce or is forced out of the workforce, that's not just a lifestyle choice, that's like a financial death sentence. In doing that, she's going to sacrifice her career trajectory, her superannuation and retirement funds, her job history. She has to step back so her husband can climb higher. And if that marriage ends, and as we know statistically it does more than half of the time, she's left with nothing. Imagine a surgery with a 50% failure rate. Would you go under and risk your entire life on it? Because that's what we're asking women to do. Then society also has the audacity to call her greedy in taking 50% in a divorce. As if that 50% didn't exist because of her unpaid labor. Her husband's career only looks the way it did because of the work that she did, that she got no credit for, no pay for. In this family arrangement, the husband was only able to do any of that because she's the one running literally every single other thing in both of their lives and the lives of their kids, while also raising the kids, usually on her own. Husbands in this arrangement can stay late at the office, grab drinks with clients, take that last minute business trip, because he's not the one racing home to cook dinner, cook for the kids, fold the laundry, do the dishes, organize the groceries, go and buy the groceries, meal prep, meal plan, book the dentist and the doctor appointments, pay the bills, do all the life admin, do all the financial admin, laundry for an entire family, cooking 3 meals every single day, juggling the kids' pickups and drop-offs and extracurricular activities, school forms, keeping track of birthdays, managing elderly parents or relatives, family gatherings, and still somehow keeping in touch with friends to keep some semblance of sanity. Take her out of the equation and the entire thing crumbles. The only reason a lot of men look like high achievers is because there's a woman acting as his entire support staff behind the scenes. Even in TikToks of like high performing, high value men, there's an invisible woman doing all the prep in the background that he's taking all the credit for to sell some PDF course on how to be a high value man. Ask the woman who's doing it all for him with zero recognition, perhaps. This is the equivalent of a group project where the wife does all of the research, puts together all of the slides, writes the assignment, but the husband presents it, so he takes all the credit. And the 50% in a divorce isn't a payout, it's more like a refund. That's if she gets 50%, which is a myth most of the time, although people do like to peddle that as fact. And in my humble opinion, 50% is a complete rip-off. Like, not for the man. 50% does not fairly compensate the woman at all. If we're talking about like a traditional setup specifically, 50% does not even come close to compensating the woman. I went into the stats of how much it would cost to hire all of the people that you would need to hire at the times you would need to hire them for to replace one housewife in a previous video, so I'm just gonna play that. Hiring someone to do all of the unpaid work that women do, by the way, would cost you around 255,000 Australian dollars every single year. Do you have that amount of money? I don't think you do. And that estimate is still very conservative because it's only based on the top 10 most time-consuming tasks listed by 6,000 mothers surveyed. And that still doesn't account for the fact that mothers are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is based on an 8-hour workday, which is not a luxury that any woman has. Mothers famously can't knock off after 8 hours. It is far more than 99% of the population could hope to afford, which brings me to the bigger picture. Women are underpaid in marriage, they're underpaid in motherhood, usually underpaid in divorce, definitely underpaid in child support. The system squeezes mothers dry and then frames them as the burden, when in reality, again, mothers are the only reason society exists. Every society that has ever existed, every innovation, every single human accomplishment can be traced back to the fact that a woman created that life and then most likely raised that person. The fact that that contribution constantly gets brushed off as if it is nothing should be so embarrassing for us as a species. And because this is the internet, and I do have to say it, if none of this applies to your specific situation, feel free to not have a fit about it. Like, feel free to just be normal about it. If you're a stay-at-home dad or a single father or a dad who just simply pulls his weight around the home or any other variation of family structure that doesn't fit the thing I am critiquing in this video, then this isn't about you. Don't send me an email. Let's just unpack this for what it is. What I am talking about is still the dominant framework in society, so that is what I am critiquing here. I am pointing out the problems that still exist that disproportionately impact women that exist in society at large. So we're in the middle of like a generational plot twist. More and more women are delaying motherhood or skipping it entirely. 44% of non-parents under 50 said they don't plan on having kids. And with the setup that we've currently got and the trajectory we're currently on, that's not selfish, it's kind of just common sense. We've watched our mothers and grandmothers burn out, be completely overlooked, unappreciated, abused by these systems and the people participating in them. They sacrifice their careers, their health, their finances, all for the privilege of still being told that they're parasitic and not doing enough, that they are worth less than men, that they are subservient to men, that they are less accomplished than men in a system that is designed to keep them less accomplished than men, that our entire gender is actually just worth less than men, apparently doesn't accomplish anything at large actually, and also we shouldn't have rights just because. The list goes on. Why the would anyone in their right mind willingly sign up for that? You have to be on some next level brainwashing to look at that and be like, that sounds good. Sounds great, let's sign me up. And in countries with no paid maternity leave and child costs that look like a second mortgage, more and more women are looking around at the deal society is offering and going, a hard pass. It's less declining fertility and more consumer rejects subscription due to hidden fees. And this isn't just an American thing. South Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world at 0.72 children per woman. Japan's at 1.6, Italy and Spain hover around 1.2, the Nordics at 1.6, the US at 1.62, all below replacement level. Basically, entire countries are ghosting parenthood. And instead of fixing those problems, instead of making it livable with paid maternity leave and paternity leave, affordable childcare, healthcare that won't bankrupt you. Instead of doing any of that, governments just wag their finger at women. They call it a fertility crisis, but the real crisis isn't that women aren't having kids. The real crisis is that they're being offered motherhood on nightmare mode, with no support, with active hostility from all of society, and they're being told to smile through it. What did you think was gonna happen? Like, sorry, we are not signing up for your Hunger Games edition of parenting. No, thank you. I did also make an entire video about the birth rate decline if you are interested. But let's talk about maternity leave, or more accurately, the US pretending that it doesn't exist. You can't even legally separate puppies from their mothers before 8 weeks. But American mums are shoved back into work sooner than that. Dogs literally have better leave policies than women in the US. The US guarantees 0 paid maternity leave. 0. Out of nearly 200 countries, only 6 have 0 maternity leave guaranteed, and America's on that list. Obviously it varies per job, per state, blah blah blah, all of that shit, but as a country, that's the best you can do. As a country with your declining birth rate, that's the best you can do. America, with enough money to endlessly fund their military to end human life, somehow can't support the only people capable of creating human life. Nice, got it. Meanwhile, Estonia gives 80 weeks maternity leave, Sweden gives 68, the UK 39. So it's not that it can't be done, it's that the US can't be doing it. Because keeping caregiving unpaid keeps women dependent, broke, and too tired to fight back. Also, they'd probably rather spend it on like a tank with 6 other tanks attached to it. I don't know what you guys are doing over there. And here's another thing that no one really wants to admit. No one's really pointing out all that often. If more dads actually took time off to look after their kids, it would stop parenting from being seen as like a mum-only job. Society might actually realize that dads are capable of actually a lot more than just mowing the lawn once a month. But in the US, only about a quarter of men even have access to paid paternity leave. And even then, a lot of them won't take it because it somehow emasculates them. Because nothing screams masculinity like skipping out on your own wife and kids to impress your probably male boss. Meanwhile, in places like Sweden or Norway, dads are required to take the leave, or at least part of it, or the entire family loses it. And surprise, surprise, it works. This has incentivized dads to take paid paternity leave. Pay gaps shrink, women stay in the workforce, dads are bonding with their kids. Where is the downfall? Everybody wins, except for the system that profits off everyone being exhausted and separated from their family and community. So motherhood is praised as like a sacred, noble cornerstone of society, but in reality, it's treated as like a bargain bin job with 0 benefits, and again, active hostility the entire time. Women are expected to birth and raise entire generations of humans while being set up to burn out. And that's obviously why more and more women are deciding to say, nah, this, I'm not doing it. Not because they don't value children, and not because a lot of them don't want children, but it's just not practical, it's just not worth it. It isn't a fertility crisis, this is a systems crisis. If governments and corporations actually wanted higher birth rates, they would make motherhood more livable. They would make motherhood something people want to do, something people are incentivized to do, not the exact opposite. Call it selfish or bitter or whatever you want to call it, but it is a shitty deal for women that barely worked in the past, only worked really through force, and definitely does not work now. And women will continue to abandon it until there are better options. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm sure this will be a contentious one. This will probably ruffle a few feathers. What doesn't? Leave your comments below. I would love to argue with some of you, and I will see you in a few days with a new video.